Hello, everybody. Welcome into Fantasy Pros. I'm Ryan Wormeli, joined by Andrew Erickson, and by a guest. We've got Greg Brainos, the founder and operator of Coachspeak Index, which everybody knows on social media, one of the invaluable social media resources here for every fantasy football season, really. Erickson, before we get to our guest, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I don't know if you guys heard, but I did throw out my back early last week, so that's been something that I've been trying to battle through, and it's making me consider, Matthew Stafford. Again, someone else that's also dealing with a back over the age of 30. I can barely walk up the stairs without hurting, and this guy's going to play a full season. So I don't know. I'm getting a little bit more worried about Matthew Stafford in this back thing, considering, these back injuries are not fun. Not fun, guys.
Man, I was not aware of this. This is the first time hearing about it. I'm sorry to hear about that. You always hear the saying, nobody ever used to have a bad back. So hopefully this doesn't stick with you.
I just got mine in the mail. It's great.
Got
my bad back.
I'm gonna be chatting actually with Deepak Chona later this week, our sports med analysis guy, who's gonna be on the show this season, about some injuries. So I'll have to ask him about Erickson's back injury designation here when we get to that. Greg, how are you doing? Thanks for joining us on the show today.
I'm doing great. I also have a degenerative disc in my back, but I power through it. Coaches say I'll be fine. I'll be ready for week 1 pressers.
I had shoulder surgery this year. You guys, couple of bad backs. We're all powering through.
Worst case scenario, again, we stash them on IR week 1. You get that out tag. You're good to go. You just add the extra player on your roster. Yeah, you'll be fine.
This is why we play with AR slots. All right, or excuse me, IR slots. I don't know why I said AR. All right, let's dive in here.
Anthony Richardson slots.
Yeah, that's what must have been what was off my brain there. Today we're talking about, as you might guess with a guest like Greg on, players that NFL coaches are telling us to draft this season. Quick reminder for everybody that all of our 2025 consensus rankings and tiers can be found at fantasypros.com/rankings. We've got 5 players that Greg wants to talk about just based on some of the quotes that are coming out from coaches and everything throughout the summer and off season, and why he is targeting some of these players in his fantasy drafts here. Just really 1 full week left until the big final weekend, and then we're in it. So this is it. This is the weekend coming up that we will be having fun with our final draft. So let's dive right in here at the very top. First name we've got written down here, Greg, is Chase Brown. Why is he somebody that you're targeting?
The coaches have been talking about him all summer, all offseason. It's been all Chase Brown when it comes to this running back room. For a while, people thought, well, what about Zach Moss? Zach Moss might eat into this share. They did not talk about Zach Moss at all. When they did, they referred him to him as part of the other guys. Zach Moss ends up getting cut. They draft Taj Brooks in the 7th round. There's no other competition in this backfield. It's just some third down snaps for Samaje Perine. Samaje Perine, a little bit older now. He's not the same back we saw in Cincinnati a couple years ago. Did not look great with the Kansas City Chiefs last year. Here's a couple quick quotes from the coaching staff on Chase Brown. This is head coach Zach Taylor on June 12th. Quote, "He's done a great job edging in there with a ton of great playmakers on offense and making himself a priority. We got to get this guy the ball in as many ways as possible. And you say that with all the other weapons we already have. And so that's just a credit to him to find his niche and force us to have to give him the ball as many times as possible," end quote. And then offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher on July 23rd said, quote, "I think Chase Brown is going to, by the end of the season, be a household name," end quote. Also said, quote, "He's everything that Austin Eckler was. I think that by the time the season's over, you'll all know who he is," end quote. Chase Brown last season became their workhorse back starting in week 9, averaged 24.4 opportunities per game, averaged just under 5 receptions for them. This is an offense that is going to be just all systems go this year. They have a pretty bad defense on paper, at least. Should be one of the bottom defenses in the league. They're going to have to chase a lot of points, and Chase Brown is going to be a part of that.
Greg, because a lot of the names that we're talking about today are guys that were taken in the 1st round, or at least earlier than the 5th round when Chase Brown was drafted the year he came out. Do you find, just in the years you've been doing Coachspeak Index, that you find any extra kind of added weight in the quotes coming from coaches for these day 3 picks that maybe don't have the same pedigree coming in, the same level of expectation. Do you evaluate those quotes when you see them differently depending on, if a guy was a first round pick and kind of has that higher level of pedigree?
I like to kind of look at it just relative, right? Like what they're saying about this player or about this situation. All right, well, let's compare that to what they've said about, players with a similar pedigree or, draft capital in the past, or like a similar situation in the past. And, some of these coaches will speak markedly different about guys. Dan Campbell, famous for that. And even guys that are just always praising their players, like Jim Harbaugh. Oh, Jalen Reagor looks so good this offseason. Well, even then, there are guys that he talks about differently, right? So he's praising everyone, but then there are guys that you can tell from his words, from the things he's saying, he has them on a completely different level. Obviously, Ladd McConkey is one of those guys for Jim Harbaugh of, his parents should take a deep, long bow. Like, that's a pretty good piece of coach speak on a player. And even how he talks about Quentin Johnston is different than, Jalen Reagor or KLS or these other guys, saying he is elite. He has elite traits. So we might not believe that stuff all the time when coaches are saying about them, but what a coach believes about his player is more important than what we believe about that player.
Erickson, we were all over Chase Brown when he was a kind of third round pick, maybe even a fourth round in some early drafts. It feels like he's kind of crept up into that back half of the second round range. Given some of these quotes, are you still interested in him, even if you have to kind of invest even more draft capital to get him?
Yeah, I think so, because I think that the market was right by moving him up the board. I think that he should have been ranked as a top 2 round draft pick, just because of the upside with Chase Brown is, he's going to be a top 5 running back. So we saw at the second half of last year, RB5 in points per game after week 9. He was RB1 in expected fantasy points. So in terms of his usage and role in the Bengals offense, there was no running back that was better than Chase Brown. So even though he's not playing every third down, we've already seen it where he's catching passes on early downs, because that's how the Bengals offense is going to operate with Joe Burrow at the helm. We already talked about the defense and how bad that's going to be. The Bengals are going to be chasing points. And I think something to point out, and not to get confused with Chase Brown, Chase Brown's not a small running back. This guy is a built 211 pounds. I'm looking right now, he's 211 pounds or 209 pounds, just under 5'10". And I know Pat Fitzmaurice has always brought this up, but Chase Brown, last season at Illinois, he had over 350 touches that final year. So for me, when I'm looking at past successes that kind of fit maybe the Chase Brown mold, to me, it's kind of like Kyren Williams, where that second year for Kyren, where Sean McVay showed allegiance to Kyren Williams and really liked Kyren Williams, but people were still kind of like, including myself, a little bit, I'm not so sure. He was a day 3 pick. Is it really going to be his backfield? And every clear indication has suggested to us, and Zach Taylor, again, comes from that Rams coaching tree, that they're ready to invest in Chase Brown as the guy this year. Now, maybe it's a little bit different come next year, and maybe we're talking about Chase Brown maybe as a fade, but for this particular season, for 2025, if Chase Brown stays healthy, we could see this guy get 350 touches in this backfield and just totally dominate. So I think that he's still a value and a great pick, at the end of round 2, especially if you start with a wide receiver in round 1. I think Chase Brown, the follow-up in round 2, is a great pick.
Can I say, just interrupt real quick and say that that's a great point about the Chase Brown receiving role that you pointed out, because there are some guys that if they're not playing on third down, like they're not getting targets on first and second down, like probably what we can expect from a type of like Caleb Johnson type player. Chase Brown very much has pass catching chops, and just because he might not be in on third down doesn't mean that he's not going to get a lot of targets in this offense.
Greg, let's go to a guy with some more draft pedigree, one of those first rounders I mentioned, and it's a rookie, Tetairoa McMillan, first rounder, obviously top 10 pick for the Panthers. What are the coaches saying about him?
Start off with this quote right after they drafted him. This was head coach Dave Canales on April 24th, said, "He's a baller. There's a simple way to look at it. When you watch film, the ballers show up and they make plays in big moments, and they're always looking to do something special." And Canales on June 3rd said he has a consistent ability to win at the top of the route. He uses his hands well. He has great body control for having that kind of frame and size. He's such a friendly target because he attacks the ball. Whenever it's thrown to him, you'll see him come back towards the ball. And then finally, Canales on July 25th said, quote, "He's going to get targeted a lot. He's going to be a big part of what we do," end quote. Also during that NFL draft presser, right after they took Tetairoa McMillan, general manager Dan Morgan, and Dave Canales. Multiple times we're talking about the red zone threat that Tetairoa McMillan provides to them, which is very, very big. We saw the target from Bryce Young during the preseason game when they got near the goal line there. And this is just a really fantastic fit. This is exactly what Carolina needed in their offense. They thought they had it last year in Deontay Johnson at that X spot. And we saw Deontay Johnson put up some really gaudy numbers for a couple games there for them. And Dave Canales was saying during that offseason, when we snap the ball for our passing offense, the very first thing is, where is Deontay Johnson? Now, that ended up becoming the same question later on in the season for different reasons. But I thought at some point we will get this kind of quote from Dave Canales during this training camp about Tetairoa McMillan, and he gives us that quote on July 25th. It's just so important to have this kind of X receiver in that offense. Dave Canales said that we want him, we brought him here to stretch the field. So that's obviously part of what he's going to do, is the downfield contested catch stuff. We saw him burn Derek Stingley Jr. on a double move in the preseason, get open. Andy Dalton gets hit on the elbow, and the ball doesn't make it to McMillan. If it did, he's going much higher than he is right now in drafts. But then also all the horizontally breaking routes, the in breakers, the out breakers that Bryce Young is so good at throwing. Well, Tetairoa McMillan is really good on those routes and turning those catches into big yak stuff. So this is such a phenomenal fit for the Panthers.
Yeah, Erickson, I don't really have even much to add. Like, I am a huge fan of Tetairoa McMillan. Literally every time I look at my rankings, I'm like, I think I got to move him up another spot amongst the receivers. I just could not be more. I want to be over my skis on him, honestly. I just think he's that good. It's a hand in glove fit in this offense. I love all the quotes coming out. I just this is a definite flag plant for me this year. And I know that you are also high on Tetairoa McMillan, Erickson.
Yeah. We've talked. I think he's been the guy I've listed in league winners, must-haves, Tetairoa McMillan all the way. So I guess I'll come to the table with my own quote here. And this is actually from not the Carolina Panthers, from his head coach at Arizona, Jedd Fisch. So Jedd Fisch was Arizona's head coach in 2023, which was Tetairoa McMillan's best year. People will look at McMillan and they say last year, maybe he fell off a little bit. A lot of people had also said that he maybe wasn't 100% healthy. But in 2023, so Jedd Fisch also has chemistry. He worked with Dave Canales back in Seattle in 2010. And when they made that draft selection, Fisch called McMillan generational talent and compared him to a guy that Dave Canales knows pretty well, Mike Evans. I really think that Canales knew what he was getting when he drafted McMillan. And despite we all labeled every mock draft, or not everyone, I know my mock drafts, I had defense for Carolina Panthers because this defense is so bad. And what do? They draft a wide receiver in round 1. And everyone knows how bad their defense is. It doesn't matter because the fit is just so good. So, and yet T-Mac and all these he's still going too cheap. He goes outside the top 24 wide receivers when we look at just top 10 picks, the average that they do at receiver. At worst, he's going to finish at the back end of the wide receiver 2 conversation. So I think it's just an easy pick.
Your more competitive leagues, he's going to be going higher. I just did it kind of like a home league draft last night. It's a salary cap format, $200 budget, 12 teams that got him for $7. Because he's a rookie, if you're in some of these more casual home leagues, I do think there is still a buying opportunity here that I would highly encourage everybody listening to take advantage of. I also would encourage everybody to take advantage of our A.J. Brown helmet giveaway this month. If you want a chance to win a signed A.J. Brown Eagles Salute to Service helmet for free, courtesy of our friends at pristineauction.com. All you have to do is subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel right now. Drop a comment below on any video, and that is it. We will be announcing a winner right here on the channel, so make sure to turn on those notifications so you can know when new videos are up and to claim your prize. Greg, we've got another wide receiver on this list, Jameson Williams.
That's right. Let's run down a little bit of this coach speak here. This is offensive coordinator John Morton on May 13th. Said Jameson Williams can go from 0 to 60 fast. It's amazing. I haven't been around a guy like him. I mean, it's 2 players with him and Jahmyr Gibbs. That explosion. I was around Reggie Bush, and that kind of explosion is impressive. Those 2 guys have it. And said, quote, he has been unbelievable. I'm so excited to see him this year. It's going to be a breakout year for him, so I can't wait. I just can't wait, man. Then head coach Dan Campbell on May 30th. was talking about Jameson Williams, everything that they can do with his routes on the outside, and then we can do things on the inside. And this correlates with what we've heard from training camp, where Jameson Williams is getting a bunch of work out of the slot. Campbell said with his speed, he's gotten so much stronger, his ability to stop, put his foot in the ground. When you can run like he can run and you can stop on a dime, you're talking about a hard cover, quote, so the sky's the limit for him, end quote. Campbell also said, quote, we expect him to have a huge season. We really do, man. He's going to be one of those guys that we're going to lean on this year and is really going to be big for us, end quote. And then we got kind of this bombshell from Dan Campbell on June 5th that I don't think I really saw reported anywhere, where Campbell said, we've tweaked a few things here and there on offense. It's about what our offensive coordinator, John Morton, really wants, how he sees it, how he wants things run, how he wants to isolate certain players. A lot of the focal point was Jameson Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta, among others. And then Morton on July 28th said, you've seen Jameson Williams' skill set. He's explosive. He's gotten better every year. Quote, I want to take that skill set and isolate him. I'm very excited where he's at right now. He's going to help us win some big games, end quote. Dan Campbell has a 90% reliability rating on usage and workload Coachspeak. So very much believing what he's saying about a huge year for Jameson Williams. And I mean, they're tweaking this offense to be more concentrated on Jameson Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, Amon-Ra St. Brown, still a very, very, very good player, but Ben Johnson, we know that he has said, where I've been, the slot receiver has been the focal point of our offense. He is now gone. Amon-Ra St. Brown may not be getting all the slot stuff. We hear Dan Campbell talking about Jameson Williams playing a little bit more on the inside. We hear the reports from camp of him playing in the slot. That's a great opportunity for him to get these easy little layup crossers and let his speed go to work, just like John Morton is talking about. So yeah, I'm very in on Jameson Williams this year.
Erickson, I'm curious what you think about JMO, because I feel like for as much as like this is a guy with a lot of physical gifts, it's been a really high scoring offense the last couple of years. We have all these great quotes coming out of camp about him. I don't feel like we've actually discussed Jameson Williams all that much on the show this summer, at least not on the shows I've been on. So where do you come down on him?
I love him because I think that we saw a breakout last year, and now the Lions are double downing on Jameson Williams again. So it's like, well, we told you all this stuff last year, and they were right because he did break out last season, especially once he had the suspension and everything put behind him. But I think it's just all gas and no brakes when it comes to Jameson Williams. Again, he's 24 years old, former 12th overall pick that the Lions traded up to get, and he already showed last year that he could break out in an offense with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, and Jahmyr Gibbs. And now the new guy that's calling the plays has decided, hey, you're going to have a bigger role in this offense this year. I think that it's wheels up, and it would not surprise me if Jameson Williams outscores Amon-Ra St. Brown when it all comes down to the end. It's going to be a lot closer than I think it was last year in traditional years for the Lions offense.
Got a couple of tight ends here to wrap things up. First one, Tyler Warren. Greg, what are your thoughts on him?
This might be the guy that has gotten the most coach speak out of any player this offseason. And it actually, when it comes to that position, goes back further than just this year. Last year during the offseason, early, I think it was the owners' meetings, Shane Steichen was talking about the importance of a bell cow tight end, talking about how they really want this wide tight end for their offense. They end up missing on Brock Bowers in the NFL draft. And then this year, they telegraphed that they wanted to take a tight end in this draft, and they end up picking Tyler Warren. Chris Ballard, right after they picked him, said he was an easy pick. There wasn't a lot of discussion. He can do a lot. He can play multiple spots. He's got the quarterback background, so he can play in the backfield. He's a great 50-50 ball catcher, violent after the catch, brings an element of toughness that I thought we needed to add offensively. Quote, I think Shane will find unique ways to use him, end quote. Listen, there are so many quotes on Tyler Warren. I've got them all in the Coachspeak Index Discord. I tweeted out a thread of them a couple weeks ago. Go check that out. I think they're building the entire plane out of Tyler Warren this year. I think he's going to be a central pillar in this offense. Originally, I was thinking, okay, it's going to be some Taysom Hilly type stuff, right? I think we'll get some tush push. We'll see some carries from him. Maybe they use him as a QB here and there on trick plays, but expecting a lot of kind of intermediate stuff. They're talking about, Ballard and Steichen talking about just what a matchup nightmare it is for opponents, for Tyler Warren to be going against linebackers and safeties, especially in the intermediate part of the field, how when he's covered, he's still open because he has unbelievable hands, which we've seen those clips during training camp. And then in the preseason, we see a lot of that stuff. And we also saw manufactured touches for him. We saw screen to him. And most bullishly, I was already in on Tyler Warren. And then we see these deep shots that they throw to him, where Daniel Jones misses pretty badly on one, connects on another. Probably be the story of this entire season for the Colts is Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson missing Tyler Warren here and there. But I think he's going to get so much volume and he's going to touch the ball so much for the Colts that it won't even matter that much how inaccurate these guys are at times.
Erickson, I want to get your opinion on Warren, but I want to kind of loop in the two tight ends we're talking about together. So first, let me toss it back to Greg for Tucker Kraft, because I know you like him a lot too, Erickson. And then I want to talk about kind of Warren versus Kraft a bit for you. But first, Tucker Kraft, Greg, is somebody that I know Erickson has talked about as a breakout this season. I know he's a favorite of the FantasyPros team. What are some quotes that kind of lead us to that opinion too?
So head coach Matt LaFleur on January 14th was asked whether there is a possibility that Tucker Kraft and Green Bay's offense could do what George Kittle or Travis Kelce do. LaFleur said, quote, 100%. And I think that's on us to make sure that we find him and feature him. When he gets the ball in his hands, you feel him. So there is an area that we got to do a better job on, or if there is an area we got to do a better job on, I would say featuring the tight end, end quote. Offensive coordinator Adam Stenavich on May 12th said there's a lot of opportunity for Tucker Kraft going into this year. We spent some time this offseason on where we can get him to take the next step. Quote, just trying to find different ways to get him the ball. That's going to be the big thing for us, end quote. And then Stenavich again on July 30th said Tucker Kraft is a playmaker. Quote, anytime we can get the ball in his hands, good things happen, end quote. Tucker Kraft, of course, led all tight ends last season in yards after the catch. And I think he's a pretty good player. And when you have a guy that leads everyone at the position in yards after the catch, you're probably going to get him a little bit more involved. That would be the smart thing to do. I think Matt LaFleur is a smart coach. So I think we see a lot more Tucker Kraft this year.
Erickson, I know you love Tucker Kraft. I really love Tyler Warren, too. My tight end strategy is really simple this year. I would like one of Bowers, McBride, or Kittle. If that doesn't happen because they go too early, I am waiting for one of Kraft or Warren to go and then just taking the other guy with the next pick. Like, I'm not really playing in this tier 2 range of tight ends. I think Kraft and Warren, who, by the way, are the two names at the top of tier 3 in our expert consensus rankings, are so attractive to me as late round tight ends that I feel very confident kind of skipping that middle class. Is that, I know Kraft in particular for you kind of falls into that category. Is Warren also in that conversation? Do you have a strong preference one or the other between these two?
I do slightly prefer Kraft, but the reason why it's like I don't draft Warren is just because I draft Kraft instead, right? Like, but those guys are neck and neck for me in terms of when I'm looking to draft my later round tight end. Now, these aren't going super, super late, like your last pick, but very far past the middle range of tight ends that we usually try to tell people to avoid, just because those guys don't end up being good returns on investments. Whereas these are the players that can make the big leaps. When we're talking about elite tight ends next year, again, this year it's all about the big three. Well, maybe it's a big 5 next year, or maybe someone falls out of the big 3. And I can guarantee Kraft or Warren, one or two of these guys are going to be in that conversation next year because of the skills that they have, the opportunities they're going to have in their respective offenses. I guess the only reason I lean Kraft is just because I just look at, well, who has a quarterback that could throw 30 touchdowns? It's not on the Colts. I don't think it's on the Colts. So Jordan Love can throw 30 touchdowns, and Tucker Kraft should easily lead that team in red zone targets. So I think that just gives him a little bit more upside, but I'm going to be happy with either of those guys. And I think you can still draft both. You want to reach around, grab Tyler Warren with the rookie hype, and then grab Tucker Kraft. I think that's more than plausible. And then, hey, you got trade bait. Again, there's nothing wrong with drafting guys that you know are going to accrue value throughout the season. And then when someone drafts a tight end that they're disappointed because they drafted him in the middle rounds and they didn't hit, well, then you can dangle Tyler Warren or Tucker Kraft and get a stud running back or receiver in return. So, yes, I think these are the best later round running tight ends that you could draft.
We've been mentioning Fantasy Pros real-time ADP. It's a new feature we have on the site. We've mentioned it on a few shows in the last week. And if you look at the tight end page on our real-time ADP, by far, the two guys who have moved up the most in the last 7 days at tight end are Tucker Kraft and Tyler Warren. Kraft is actually up to tight end 8 in real-time ADP, which is a couple of spots higher than his expert consensus ranking. He's going about a round higher than Tyler Warren, who's still tight end 11. So there's a couple names kind of in that grouping. But they have moved up the most by a wide margin amongst the tight ends. So if you are drafting and saying, hey, I want to go make sure and I actually really get these guys that, the experts are saying we really believe in, check out real-time ADP to make sure that you are able to really go up and get your guy, not just based on maybe outdated rankings or kind of old-looking ADP on other sites. I want to also remind everybody that winning your fantasy league starts before draft day, and the Fantasy Pros Draft Kit gives you the knowledge to do it right. It's your one-stop shop for expert rankings, players to target or avoid, running back draft strategies, and more. Don't walk into draft day guessing. Read up, lock in, win your league. Go to fantasypros.com/kit. Get access to all the premium content in our kit by claiming your 3-day trial of Fantasy Pros Premium at fantasypros.com/premium. Erickson, you want to tell us what else is going on the site?
Yeah, I mean, everything that's draft related, right? You have must-haves, you have avoids, you have my perfect draft strategy article, which is going to be updated and up for the site for anyone else that has their drafts still upcoming this weekend. And then it's going to have week 1 stuff. So making all the roster moves, sitting your lineup. And I know that Greg is also going to have some feature pieces on the site as well, talking about more in depth of the actual quotes we talked about today on players to target, but also players to fade. Again, not all Coachspeak is positive. And because Greg has experience doing this, he can kind of read between the lines a little bit and understand what the coaches are actually saying, even if it's not verbatim what they're actually saying, what they mean. And again, as crushing as it is as a Marvin Mims fan, this may not be the year for Marvin Mims. You're going to have to read the whole article and check it out. It's going to be on the site soon. So yeah, and Greg, I know you got something else to promote as well.
Yeah, the Coachspeak Index Discord. Listen, the Twitter's great. It's fun. Post some fun clips there every once in a while, just like, really big thing, maybe like a hot button issue. But as far as the information from press conferences and all that, what goes on Twitter is maybe like 1 or 2% of what's in the Coachspeak Index Discord. It's now, 30 plus hours per week of press conferences. And I watch all those and I curate all the notes from every head coach, offensive coordinator, general manager, press conference, put all the important notes into separate team threads in the Coachspeak Index Discord. It is the most valuable tool in all of fantasy football. I'm not the only one saying that. A lot of people in the industry saying that, people that you can trust. And it's just incredible, actionable information for fantasy and also for NFL betting. Once week 1 gets here, nobody moved markets last year like Coachspeak Index, and I'll be sending that tweet out as well, and you can see the proof of that.
Check out Coachspeak Index on Twitter. If somehow you haven't seen it, check them out on Discord. More importantly, check them out on the site as well. For Greg and Erickson, I'm Ryan Wormeli. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next time.